Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. So this is on page 71 or 70. So we actually stopped last time around here. So the request to teach, the decision to teach, and the request to teach. The request to teach was made by Devas. You all know that the Devas came down and said to the Buddha, there are beings with little dust in their eyes who are perishing through not hearing the Dharma. So the Devas knew that the Buddha was not going to teach, because the Buddha said, my teaching is too profound, my teaching is too deep to understand, and it's going to be too difficult for people. So he decided not to come out to teach, but the Devas came down and requested, he said, please, enlightenment, please, could you go out and teach? Because there are people with little dust in their eyes. How do you understand with little dust in their eyes? What does it mean? No dust in the little dust in the eyes. It means little dust in the eyes. That means they can see the truth. They can see much, little, but only little. Okay, but who are perishing through not hearing the Dharma? Because not hearing the Dharma, one doesn't understand. One doesn't understand the life, the nature of our existence, and how could we overcome because of such an impermanent nature of our life. How can we overcome those sufferings which accompany the impermanency, right? We become unhappy because things change according not to our wishes. We become unhappy because we are separated from those whom we love. We become miserable because we get acquainted or we encounter those people or those things that we don't like, right? So those are all the difficulties, all the sufferings, all the miseries. We call it dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. If we haven't heard the Dharma, we wouldn't know how to deal with this. Even though we have heard the Dharma, we're still not very good in dealing with all this. But at least there is an opportunity, there is a chance for us to remember. And if we will remember, hopefully that we'll be able to actually apply the Dharma and help ourselves to overcome those difficulties, right? At least there is a possibility. So that's why the Deva said, there are people with little dust in their eyes, they are perishing through because they don't hear the Dharma. So please, there will be those who understand the Dharma. So please open the doors to the deathless. Sorry, I actually supposed to be an exclamation mark. I put a question mark. No, please, he said, open the doors to the deathless and let them hear. Let them hear the Dharma that the stainless one has found. This stainless one means the Buddha. He is without taint. He is without blemishes, right? And he is completely pure and he is totally enlightened. That's why he's called a stainless one. That means he doesn't have any fetters, he doesn't have any craving, he doesn't have anything. He's clean, completely pure. So let them hear the Dharma that the stainless one has found. He rediscovered the Dharma, as I always say. He rediscovered the Dharma. He did not invent the Dharma. He did not invent his teachings, but he did rediscover. His teachings are talking about the truth of existence, right? And he did not invent them. He actually rediscovered by going through that process towards enlightenment. So whether he actually was born or not, whether he actually willing to teach or not, the Dharma is always there. Okay, so whether there is the Buddha or not, the Dharma is always there, because that's the truth pertaining to the existence of us, of the universe. Okay? So he said, let the Deva said, let them hear the Dharma that the Stainless One has found. And please ascend to the palace of the Dharma. Why would you think that they use the word ascend the palace of the Dharma? Why not descend to teach the Dharma? Why would the yeah?
More can hear from the top.
Huh?
More can hear you from the top. You can reach more people.
Okay, all right.
And maybe that's the Deva's way of speaking.
The Deva's way of speaking. Because the Devas come from where? Come from up there. Yeah. So if you descend, you talk from the lower level. Only the lower level people can hear you. So you have to ascend to the higher world, so everybody, all realms can hear, right? And also, the palace of Dharma, that means nothing can actually surpass what the Buddha has taught, what the Buddha has discovered. Nothing. Nobody ever talk about the things that he talked about. Nobody. So that's why he said, the Dharma I discovered, nothing can surpass it. It is the highest. Okay? Then he said, let the sorrowless one survey this human breed engulfed in sorrow, overcome by birth and old age. And let them arise, victorious hero. Okay, he said, victorious hero, please let the Blessed One teach the Dharma. There will be those who will understand. So the Devas beg the Buddha, please teach. There will be people who will understand. There will be those who will understand. There will be those with little dust or no dust. They will understand. So then I listened. That means the Buddha was listening to this Brahma. This was the one who actually came. Brahma Sahampati, actually he came out of compassion for beings. So, out of compassion for being, the Buddha actually surveyed the world, and he saw beings with little dust in the eyes, and with much dust in the eyes, with keen faculties and with dull faculties, just like what? Just like lotuses. We did not read this, so this paragraph, so I'm telling you, okay? So, sorry. So he said, arise, deathless one, wander in the world, please let the Blessed One teach the Dharma. There will be those who will understand. So this Brahma invited the Buddha to teach, and the Buddha looked around, and he saw beings with little dust, with much dust, being with keen faculties, some with dull faculties, and some with good qualities, some with bad qualities. And some are easy to teach, some are very difficult to teach. Okay? And then some who dwell seeing fear and blame in the other world. How do you understand this last one? What do you mean by in the other world? Next one. This one? This world? Right now? Okay. Anybody else? for their sufferings? Anybody else?
I don't know the word, it's an English word called preta. That means, I don't know translation.
Preta,
Preta, yeah, that is people are in the lower realm.
lie in the lower realm.
Lower realm, those
Yeah.
who have committed the sins and all of that,
Yeah.
they are born in the lower realm. Yeah, that's the
People, some who dwell seeing fear and blame in the other worlds, that means the rebirth in the lower realm, fearful, and blame in the rebirth of other world, in other world, not this human world, in other world, other realms. Understand? How many realms of existence? Don't make faces. Recall your memory. Ah.
Is it a big number or a little number? I think it's 32. Yeah.
You are really guessing. Get your phone out. 6 realms. Okay, good. Remember, please. Remember 6 realms. 3 higher and 3 lower. Or 2 higher and 1 human and 3 lower. Okay? Okay. Not 32 anymore, all right? Next time, guess closer. So, and he said, sentient beings are like lotuses. Some lotuses are born and grow immersed in the water and never be able to rise above water. So those are the people with a lot of dust or no dust? A lot of dust, yeah. Good. And then some are born and grow in water and rest on the water surface. Little dust, little dust. And some are born and grow in the water, but rise out of water and stand clear, unwetted by it. Those are no dust. Those are with keen faculties. Those are easy to teach. Those are good, with good qualities. Those are without fear and blame in the other world. Yeah? So those are the, that's why in the Buddhist similes, a lot of similes are using lotuses to represent the purity, the good qualities, the beauty of people who are cultivating morality and mindfulness and attainment. Okay, so eventually the Buddha agreed to teach. He said, okay, I open for them other doors to the deathless. That's the last paragraph on page 71. And let those with ears now show their faith. Thinking it would be troublesome, O Brahma, I did not speak the Dharma subtle and sublime. So, why he said, let those with ears now show their faith? Why not let those with eyes show their faith?
Because you don't always have to see something to believe it, and here it gives another form of consciousness.
That's very good. Taking yourself back to the historical time. Oral language, very good. Yes, everything is passed down by oral tradition. Before there was printing, before there were like, what do you call that? Writing on the leaves?
Papyrus?
Huh?
Papyrus?
Yeah, papyrus. Yeah. So before that, everything was passed down by oral tradition. So that's why it's ears. Okay? It's ears. Then first one to teach the Dharma to. Remember who that was? Whom the Buddha wanted to teach the Dharma to? Whom?
His teachers.
Which one? What's the name of the first teacher that he wanted to teach the Dharma to? Very easy name. Think about the 10 not abiding. Don't believe. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Alara Kalama. Good. That's very good. So, Alara Kalama, what happened with Alara Kalama? He died how many days? 7 days. Oh, you read it. Very good. Yeah, 7 days. He died a week before the Buddha's enlightenment, before he attained enlightenment. Then he said, well, he died, so I will go to my second teacher. So who is the second teacher? Yeah, Ramaputra. Huh? Very good, Tisa. Yeah, Uddaka Ramaputra. What happened to Uddaka? He died. How many days? The night before. Very good. It's good. We talked about that before, right? You probably read it. Yeah, right. Very good. So then he found that these two teachers have died, so there's no way that he can teach them. Because why? What happened to Alara and what happened to Uddaka? Where were they? Huh? Yeah, up there. In the formless realm. They can hear. Yeah, they can hear. They will only, wave to the Buddha and then go off. Yeah, yeah, go off to enjoy the essential pleasures. So that's why he can teach them. So then he thought about the 5 monks. Who are these 5 monks? They were his attendants. Yeah. So he decided to go to teach these 5 monks. Then on the way, he met Ajivaka. And Ajivaka said, "Hey, you look very serene. What have you learned?" He asked, "Under whom have you gone forth with? Who is your teacher? Which Dharma do you profess in?" So the Buddha replied him, "I have no teacher, and one like me exists nowhere in all the world, with all its divas, because I have no person for my counterpart." Okay? So that is the first answer. And then the second one coming here, "For I am the Arhat in the world. I am the teacher supreme. I alone am a perfectly enlightened one, whose fires are quenched and extinguished." So this is how the Buddha actually replied the question raised by Ajivaka on the way, and Ajivaka met him when the Buddha was on the way to see the 5 monks. And you know what Ajivaka said to him? May it be so, friend. May it be so, friend. So you said such thing, okay. That means, and then Ajivaka, what did he do? He turned his head and walked away. What does this tell you about Ajivaka? Didn't believe him. Yeah, didn't believe him. So there are still a lot of Ajivaka in the world nowadays, right? Some people experience, some people come, some people study a little bit, and then, no, they don't believe that. Sometimes they may believe in the philosophy, but they don't believe in the practice. Sometimes they believe in the philosophy, and then they start to practice, but they can't persevere because it's too difficult, right? Remember what the Buddha has gone through. Remember those pictures. Remember that really heavy lesson that we went through the other night. So there are still a lot of people like Ajivaka, still, throughout history, even in the modern world, still. I hope none of you will be like Ajivaka. All of you will actually persevere. It's not easy to persevere. It's really difficult. I can tell you. I've been in this in this practice for how many years? Over 30 years now, and it's very challenging. Sometimes it seems to be very disappointing, because you listen, you heard the stories. So many people get enlightened when they heard the Buddha's talk, when they heard the Buddha taught, especially with the Dhammapada. Well, so they listen to one little simile, and then they get enlightened. They become arahant. And we are still here, listening to the Dharma for so many years, and we are still here. It seems that we are not getting anywhere. So we get disappointed sometimes. We think, oh, well, really, I can become a Buddha? Really, I can become enlightened? Really, I can totally eradicate all my defilements, afflictions? You have doubts. But only allow the doubts to stay there for a couple of seconds. Don't allow the doubts to actually invade you and remain. Okay? Don't allow the doubts to invade and remain. Because that will actually, if it invades you, it's okay, because if you have mindfulness, then you will be able, and equanimity, you'll be able to stride through the hurdle. But if you allow that doubt to remain, it will erode. It will eat away your faith, your confidence in your Dharma, in the Dharma, okay? So, he started to teach. So he went to the city. He went to the city and to set in motion the wheel of the Dharma. So why is it called the wheel of the Dharma? Because the wheel is turning. That means the Dharma is turning. So rolling over, rolling. So in a world that has become blind, I go to beat the drum of deathless. How do you understand this? I go to beat the drum of deathless, so that people will hear the drum of deathless. Okay? So that means the Dhamma, to hear the drum of the Dhamma. And the victors are those like me, he said, who have won the destruction of taints, and I have vanquished all evil states. Therefore, upaka, I am a victor. So, as we have discussed before, what the Buddha actually said here, I am a victor. He wasn't arrogant. He wasn't arrogant. He wasn't saying that, oh, I am the victor. You are all. He wasn't belittling everybody else. No, he wasn't. But it means that the Dhamma that he actually is going to teach is the highest. And there is nothing and there is nobody who can compare to the teachings that he was going to teach. Okay. So he said, and then he went to see the 5 monks. Then the five monks said, oh, that's Gautama is coming. The Gautama who gave up that aesthetic life, that really aesthetic life, he is coming. And he went for luxury. He took porridge, he took everything, and he sat down, he took a bath. So let us don't pay any attention to him. Let us don't prepare a seat for him. Let us don't pay respect to him. So then the Buddha said to him, I I have attained enlightenment. Now I wanted to teach you. And the five monks said, no, I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to listen. So he tried a couple of times, and eventually he said to these monks, because these monks were his attendants when he used to be a prince. So he said to these monks, have you ever heard me speaking like this? Before. And the monks said, no. They really haven't heard him pushing and expounding this kind of teachings before. They never heard it before. In those years that he was with them, for that 6 years that he was with them, they've never heard him saying this. So he said, you have not heard me speak like this before, so please hear me now. I'm going to teach you the Dharma. So, and he said, when I teach you, you should actually practice as you are instructed. And by going through it yourself, here and now, going through it yourself, by direct knowledge, you will soon enter and dwell in that supreme goal of the holy life. That means you will also attain enlightenment through direct knowledge, by realizing it yourself. So that means you have to experience his teachings. Don't just believe his words. You have to experience it yourself. But direct knowledge, that means you experience and you know it. Not just by mere studying the words. By studying, no matter how much you memorize those words, if you cannot experience those words, these words are just mere words. You are just repeating the words, but you are not experiencing what he taught. Okay? So eventually you will enter and dwell in the supreme goal of the holy life. And when you actually attain that knowledge and vision, that knowledge and vision that you attained, that liberation is unshakable. Nothing can shake up that liberation. You cannot go back anymore. There is no regress. There's only progress. And then the monk said, oh, this is our last birth. Now there is no more renewed existence. That means the monks, the 5 monks, were all actually they all attained enlightenment. So easy, eh? Why are we still here? Why are we still studying word by word, passage by passage? Because, why? You know the answers. I'm not expecting a big answers. Our karma, huh? We are not enlightened yet. That's a fact, isn't it? Yeah. We still have many, yeah?
We are ignorant.
We are ignorant, yeah. We are ignorant. We have a lot of dust in our eyes. Right? Each of us have different dust. Yeah? Each of us has different dust. So, because we are ignorant, that's why we have so much dust in our eyes. That's why we are still here. But don't worry. Okay? Be optimistic. We will get there one day. Okay. So then he started to, what did he teach the monk? This is a very, very, very deep core teaching of the Buddha's teachings. Okay, the first discourse is talking about the noble truth, and he said there are 2 extremes we should not actually follow. One extreme is the pursuit of sensual happiness in sensual pleasures. They are low, they are vulgar, they are the way of the worldlings, they are ignoble, they are unbeneficial. And then the other extreme is the pursuit of self-mortification, like extreme asceticism. Like that is painful, that's ignoble, that's unbeneficial. So on the spectrum of practice, either end is not going to be conducive for your attainment to Buddhahood. Okay? The pursuit of sensual pleasures, the pursuit of self-mortifications, these are on the both ends. So what he taught was this middle path. The middle path, especially us as worldly people, we cannot renounce everything yet. Okay? So we need to choose the middle path. Especially you as householder, you will still have families, you still have a lot of responsibilities. It doesn't mean that he said to you is, oh, you give up everything. No, I haven't given up everything, even though I have renounced to become a nun. I haven't given up everything. I still enjoy whatever I enjoy. Okay, and so that's why I'm still not enlightened, right? So the middle path, he said, it will give rise to vision, to knowledge, to peace, and to direct knowledge, and to enlightenment. At last, it will give rise to the total purification, that is Nibbana. So this is Nibbana, enlightenment, is out of our comprehension. But all we have to do is really be persistent in taking this middle path as our volition to practice. And by us persevere on this path, I tell you, it will be okay. Eventually, one day, we'll be there. Okay, so that first discourse he was talking. He tell those monks renounce these two extremes and understand the following. So the first teaching that he taught was the Four Noble Truths. So most of you actually know what is the Four Noble Truths. The first Noble Truth is, this is suffering. This is suffering, right here, right now. This is suffering. And the second Noble Truth is, this is the cause of my suffering. And then the third Noble Truth is, this is the cessation of suffering. And then the fourth Noble Truth is, this is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. So you can see, this is suffering, is an effect, it's a consequence, right? And this is the cause of suffering, is the reasons for our suffering. As Jesus said just now, why do we have so much dust? Because having so much dust in our eyes is already an effect, a consequence. Why? Why do we have so much dust in our eyes? Because we are ignorant.
And you can also say, we don't see things as they really are.
Yeah.
Exactly, too.
Yeah. So that's the reason why we have so much dust in our eyes. There's delusion, illusion, right? So why would the Buddha actually tell you, actually lined up the Four Noble Truths in this way? Normally, as a logical sense, you said, well, because you are ignorant, that's why you are suffering. But he actually put, this is suffering, as the first Noble Truth.
Maybe he thought that's the way people could understand it.
Yeah. Why?
Because it's easy to understand suffering. Or you could see that we're born and
You could see the consequence. You see the consequences. right here, right? So when one see the consequences, then one could go back and say, wow, yeah, because of such reasons, that's why there is such effect. But if you tell people that, well, if you are ignorant, then you will suffer. Oh, nobody will believe you, because nobody will believe they are so ignorant. If you tell me that I'm ignorant, that's why you suffer, I won't believe in you. But because I'm already suffering, then you tell me this is the reason, that's why you're suffering, then I will believe, right? So that's why, because we are unenlightened, that's why we need to actually suffer in order to really know the reasons why we are suffering. Because we are so ignorant. Okay? You have questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
It would be a mistake, right? Not an intentional.
But not intentional.
Yeah.
But remember, everything counts is intention. This intention counts. Okay? So if you are accidentally stepping onto others' bag or whatever, you're not responsible. You agree, right? But you look so like, really, Sifu? For example, we can raise a very easy example. For example, we are like on work day, everybody's come and help to clean up. So somebody is trimming the trees, right? So somebody is raking those cut down branches. Everybody is raking. Maybe we are not mindful enough, and we bump into the person who is next to us, and maybe we cause harm to them. But that is not intentional. Okay? So of course, when one is more mindful, then one will be very careful to see, oh, is there anybody around me? So I don't have to rake with such big actions, right?
Yeah.
So that is one thing.
Okay.
But if it is intentional, no matter how minor the mistake is, you still have to bear the consequence.
Oh,
okay. Okay? For example, if you see an ant or mosquito, okay, let me give you an example of mosquito. So I go to Fort Mountain to teach, right? In the summer, there are so many mosquitoes. But if we don't open the window, if we open the door, the air doesn't come in. So in the beginning, I opened the door, and then we close it once we start. But the mosquitoes have already come in. So those guys was like this, they kill. I said, hey, don't kill the mosquito. They look at me like, really? That is intentional killing. But if there is a mosquito stinging you, and you sort of like, oh, it's itchy, so you gently just sort of like sweep it, and you accidentally killed it. You don't have to bear the consequences. But if you say there's mosquito, that is intentional. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that is intentional. No matter how little that creature is, okay? So I understand this the Buddha really put his heart into teaching. He really thoroughly thought about how to approach those human beings with so much dust. That's why he actually arranged the Four Noble Truths in such a way. This is how I see why he arranged it in such a way. Actually, nobody, I haven't seen any commentary about this arrangement, but this is how I see it. But so, with give you a very simple analogy about this is suffering. For example, today I had this short of breath. I had this so really like full head, like as if that I'm getting a cold or whatever. but I don't have a runny nose. So if I have this kind of feeling, short of breath and really bloated head, then I will go to the doctor. And the doctor will say, hey, what's up, sister? Then I'll tell him, oh, I have this short of breath and I have this bloated head and everything. So that's the effect that I'm feeling now. That's my suffering. That's my discomfort, you can call. That is my discomfort. It might not be suffering if I don't react to it, if I don't reject it, then it is not a suffering. But that is definitely my discomfort, right? Remember, suffering actually is not a good word. This is dukkha. Okay, dukkha. So this is dukkha. Dukkha, it means suffering, dissatisfaction, unhappiness, discomfort, and all that. Okay, then the doctor said, oh, what happened to you? Did you go out in the cold not wearing a toque or whatever? Or did you encounter somebody have a cold? I said, I don't know. Maybe because this morning when I walk, I wasn't dressed up warm enough. So that's the cause of my discomfort. Then what is the cessation of dukkha? How to stop that? Then the doctor said, okay, this is your prescription. Okay, take it home. Take it. This is a prescription. Go home and fill the prescription. Tylenol 3. Okay, take Tylenol 3. So I take the prescription. That is a cessation of suffering. The prescription is the cessation of suffering. And no, that's the path to the cessation of the suffering. No. Yes, that's the path. The prescription is the path to the cessation of suffering. Then, after I fill the prescription, I go home and I take the Tylenol. And I feel better. That's the consequence of after taking the Tylenol. You see, that's how you can actually see the Four Noble Truths as an illness, suffering as an illness. There are 12 aspects of the Four Noble Truths. These are a little bit complicated, but we can actually go through it very fast, and I can give you a very easiest vision to look at these 12 aspects of Four Noble Truths. And the first aspect about the First Noble Truth is this is the Noble Truth of suffering. Yes, this is suffering. And this truth of suffering, I understand now. I totally understand. And this needs to be understood and needs to be understood. And then the third one is, I totally understood. Okay, that is the first three aspects relating to the First Noble Truth. This is suffering. And then the second one is the origin of suffering. So this is the origin of suffering. The cold. Maybe I have a friend who has a cold. So this is why I have this headache. The noble truth of origin of suffering is to be abandoned. So I need to get rid of this headache. Right? I need to get rid of this headache. And this headache has been abandoned. How? How to abandon them? It's by the third and the fourth noble truth. So I know this is the way out of my suffering. Okay? This is the way, this is the end of the suffering. And I need to realize this is the end of the suffering. And then I realize this. So I know, okay, if I've taken the medicine, that means we go to the fourth noble truth. If I've taken the medicine, then there will be the cessation of suffering. Okay? And I need to realize this. So this is actually, you think, oh, darn, What does it mean? It's actually easier to understand. I will, okay. This is in the book. He said, after seeing the 12 aspects of the Fourth Noble Truth, the vision knowledge arose in me because he understood, he experienced. And I attained this enlightenment, and it's unshakable. And this is my last birth. I won't be reborn anymore. So there is this we call Saddhamma. This is another way to look at those 12 aspects of the Four Noble Truths. The first turning is pariyatti. Pariyatti, that means you hear, you listen, okay, you read, okay, that is pariyatti. So you start to understand more. You start to understand, you start to reflect, okay? So that's the first turning. You start to reflect on sufferings. You start to understand suffering. You hear more about the suffering. You see more about the suffering. Yeah? That's the first pariyatti. Pariyatti, that means hearing, studying, listening, reflecting. And then the second turning is like the patipatti. Patipatti, that means you are actually practicing. Practicing to see, to understand the Four Noble Truths. How does that work? Huh? The Eightfold Path. Yeah, very good. The Eightfold Path. So we will talk about the Eightfold Path later on. So now you are actually walking on the Eightfold Path, right? A lot of you, I mean, you listening to you're doing the first turning already, pariyatti. Okay, you're listening, you're hearing. Patipatti, that means you start to practice. You have right livelihood. Yeah? Then you have what? Right actions. Yeah, bodily actions, not stealing, not committing adultery, not killing, and not taking intoxicants. Okay, right speech, right? And then the right efforts into mindfulness, the right efforts, virya. Right mindfulness, samasati. And then you develop a right concentration, yeah, samasamadhi. Because of what? You have the right view, samadikti. Right? You have the right what? Right intention, samasankappo. So that Eightfold Path is the practice. Yeah? So when you practice, you start to realize your practice is helping you to actually what? Walk away from the dukkha. Yeah? And then the third turning is patividdan. That means you attained. You realize. So, do you think that those three turning has to be so high sounding, or it could be really down to earth? It has to be. Otherwise, what's the teaching? What's the reason for teaching? Right? It has to be. We can actually use it any time of our life. Right? So, remember the three turnings actually is the path. It's the path. If we don't see dukkha in our life, we will never start to practice. Right? So, seeing dukkha is not pessimistic. Seeing dukkha and starting to practice is actually very optimistic. It's brightness. Okay? But if you see dukkha and you don't practice, and you lament and you become sorrowful, that is pessimistic. That's more dukkha, yeah. Multiplication of dukkha, yeah. Okay? So we finished this chapter. So reflections, I want you to do some reflections, so next week you can talk about reflections, okay? Have you ever realized any of the Noble Truths in these real life situations? And then the second one is, how can you apply the Four Noble Truths to real life situations? How can you apply them? Okay? Great. No questions, right? Oh. Well, we will go into the Four Noble Truths actually in the latter chapters when we talk about the 12 dependent originations, the Eightfold Path. So that's why I just go over it very briefly tonight. Okay, so become people with less dust. Let's keep walking on the path and become people with less dust. All right? Okay, so let us dedicate our merits. May these blessings extend to all, that we with all the other living beings together will attain the Buddha way. Let us arouse a good thought. May more and more people will encounter the words of the Buddha, study them, practice them, and help themselves to liberate from all the dukkha and attain the ultimate freedom, happiness, and peace.